Hey everyone, welcome to our 125,000 subscriber Ask Me Anything session. So as always, appreciate the support. Thanks for helping get to this point. I did something a little bit different for this AMA. Basically, I posted on LinkedIn, Twitter, and the YouTube community, hey, if you have a question, post it here. So then people from different time zones could ask their question. And I tried to pick kind of the most interesting, I think it was maybe about 15 questions. And so I'll jump straight into it. So this is a very common question. So why do you keep the channel advert free? And really this channel is about me giving back to the community. I always follow this idea of the 5 rules. I've got it on my sign above here in the studio. This is just above my monitor. I have it in my pool room. I have this in the gym. These are the things I try to live by. So you have a vision, you think big, ignore the naysayers, work your butt off, and then give something back. I think that's super important. So the reason this is advert free is I want this to be me giving something back as opposed to some other form of income that I benefit from. Now I still benefit from this. Obviously it helps my brand overall, and it helps me learn, because for me to learn something to be able to teach other people, it makes me really question the whole set of the technology. It makes me think about how best to understand it so I can transfer that knowledge to other people. But the whole point of this is I don't want it to be a side business. I want it just to be something that I can give back. So that's why there's no advertising on it. I don't want it to be a business. I do things on the side to bring in extra money. I'm playing with some ideas right now about things, but I don't want it to be part of the channel. Can you cover up the tattoo? It's distracting. No, it's part of who I am. If you don't like it, don't watch the channel. The same argument would be, hey, John, your face is distracting. Put a paper bag over your head. Or John, your bald head and the light reflecting off it, please put on a wig. I am who I am. If you don't like it, don't watch. Don't care. Someone posted the other day about my accent. What do you want me to do? So yes, and that person who doesn't like the tattoo, hope that annoys you a bit more. Do you moderate the comments? Yes. So basically I did a post on the community maybe a month ago that I now have moderation turned on for the comments for a number of reasons. Basically the channel has got more popular, and the amount of spam I get, the amount of people trying to self-promote subtly through the channel, questions that have already been covered in the video, questions that have nothing to do with the video, huge, long, complex stories, things that are just gibberish posted, people asking for content, my number one pet hate. So there's just so many different things, people wanting personal guidance. It's impossible for me to keep up with that. Also, so many people would post questions, and then once I answered it, they would delete it. I guess they thought they got their answer. They don't want to be seen in public as asking a question. Or people will post a question, I'll answer it, and then they edit their question. Well, that wipes out the answer. So it's really become impossible to try and maintain helping people in that way. You will see sometimes I'll pin a note comment. So if I see a common thread of questions coming up, I'll maybe try and answer it in a pinned comment. Like my DNS resolver video I just did, I pinned a comment to answer 2 of the most common things I try to see. But realize as a person asking the question, you think it's kind of a one-to-one and John should respond. From my perspective, there's 20, 30 people a day wanting personalized help. That's impossible. Even if it only took me 3 minutes a question, that's over an hour a day that I don't have. I recommend if you have questions or you want guidance, post to Reddit, post to the tech communities. That's the best way of getting that. I will quickly skim over the moderations, and I'll try and let through if it's just a very quick clarification or it's someone saying we passed, and I like to congratulate people for that. But it's the same reason I ignore Twitter. I ignore LinkedIn. If you tag me in asking questions on those things, I ignore it. I don't want to set a precedent that people think, oh, well, I can go and get answers by tagging John. I don't want that. I have my family, I have my job, I have my training, I have sleep, and then I have my hobby, this channel. And the time I devote is creating the content, not wanting to moderate a forum, not wanting to provide one-on-one question service. If I have a choice between taking my kids for a bike ride or answering questions of 5 random strangers on the internet, I'm going to take my kids for a bike ride. So long way of saying it, yes, it's moderated because it just has become a swamp in the comment section. So now I only let through the things that are actually applicable to the video. What do you bench? This comes out all the time. I have no idea. I don't lift heavy anymore. I hurt my shoulder a while back. I tend to do more sets of 8 to 12, fairly slow and controlled, especially because of my shoulder. I might go heavy on other body parts sometimes, but yeah, I have zero clue what my max. I don't do 1 rep maxes. I train on my own in my garage now. There's no spotter. So I have no idea what my maximum would be. My daily routine is 90 minutes cardio and then 80 to 9 minutes weight training. Obviously, a big focus for me is the Ironman events, which is lots of endurance, but I don't want to lose the muscle mass either. So a lot of my weight training is about maintaining. I don't want to gain. I'm too big as it is for a lot of the Ironman activities, so I just want to maintain what I've got. What's next after Kona? So I have Alaska Ironman coming up and then Kona Ironman coming up. Then I'm doing the Dallas Spartan Ultra again. I'm going to do the Texas Ironman next year, and then I want to do the Leadville 100 trail run. So I think that'd be an interesting challenge. Things like the Norseman, Ironman, Challenge Roth, I think they'd all be super interesting to do. And for me, it's just important I find hard things to do. I like to always challenge myself. There's no achievement without that chance of failure. The harder the challenge, the bigger the accomplishment. The harder I work, the more I enjoy that feeling of success. How much satisfaction do you get if you do something easy? It really is proportional. And it doesn't matter what someone else is doing. It's about what's a challenge for you. What is a success for you? So it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. There are things I do that others would look at and go, that's so easy. It's just set things that are hard for you and challenge you, and you'll get a satisfaction from that. And I think we have a spectrum in life. And if we do hard things, our spectrum obviously goes a lot further. So that when, hey, my internet is slow, my application is crashing, there's some annoying person on LinkedIn, ambulance chasing for work subtly, or asking for content on a response to a comment. You're like, oh, it's just a buzzing nothing compared to doing an Ironman. So I think it's good to do those hard things that it resets your spectrum, and you can laugh at these morons on the internet. So keep doing hard things. I'm going to keep doing things that are tough for me. One day I'm going to fail, and that's okay. We all fail. It's how we learn. It's how we improve. But I want to get to being old, and I've not left anything on the table. I have maximized what I could possibly have been, and I think I'll be happy with that. Which video was the toughest to prepare for? So the exam crams are always the toughest. They're so broad and there's so much work that has to go in. So I'm trying to make sure I'm covering all the key things, and they're just massive in scope. So like the AZ305, the AZ700, those were some of the toughest ones I've ever done. My DevOps masterclass, the master Git lesson within there, was a huge amount of preparation work. I did a whole file so you could follow along. But I think that's actually probably the video I'm most proud of. My master Git video in the DevOps masterclass. I loved that one. That was the most fun, most work, but also the most fun. Are you looking forward to in-person events again? No. And honestly, I don't intend to do them. So if you've ever seen these before, I'm a huge introvert. On video, very open, very chatty, laughing. In person, I'm hiding in a corner somewhere. If there's an event, I get there when it starts so I can leave as quickly as possible. I do not enjoy chit chat. I'm not good at it. I've got worse with COVID. I used to do some in-person events because I felt I needed to. I don't feel I need to anymore. And so I don't anticipate, unless someone is making me do it, doing in-person events again. It's just not something I enjoy doing. And so I don't want to do them. Lots of questions about what should you pursue next, and realize that's a very personal answer. You have to understand that person and what their goals are to be able to answer that. So I really can't answer that question. I created that Learn site specifically to try and give what I think is a good order. So these are links to my videos like fundamentals, and then admin, and then architecture and security and networking. So this site was created to try and help people answer that question specifically. But in terms of more personal guidance, I really have no way of giving that. Again, Reddit, the tech communities, if you want that one-to-one help, they're great places to go. Unfortunately, I don't have the time. This hobby, creating the content, is the time allotment I have to my hobby. Outside of that, there are other more important things that I want to focus on. In terms of starting jobs, honestly, I don't know. I've been in this industry since I was 18. I think if you're trying to get into the cloud from scratch, some time of operations role may be a good starting point where you start to get some hands-on on the cloud, learn from people around you, then maybe you can start to take on some architecture elements and learn from other architects. I think that's a good path. I think DevOps and those roles are great. Cybersecurity is a huge area today. I think a background in IT definitely helps with the cloud. The cloud is a new way of hosting. There's new types of services, but having that base understanding of networking, of server maintenance, of how things work, it still applies to the cloud. So it is good, I think, to have that background. How many certifications do you have, and which do you take without looking at what's in it? So I don't know what certifications I have. I only take certifications now so I can go and create a study cram on it. I don't ever look at what's in it before I take them. I like to just take them blind without any clue of what's in it, just to see, okay, does my just base knowledge cover that or not? Then after I take it and I've got some idea, I will then go and look at, well, what's that Word document that tells you the things you should know? I'll see what material's out there to help me create the study cram. But I never prepare for any exam. I take them all cold, just so I'm curious to see what I know and what I don't know. It's an interesting thing to do. But then obviously to create the cram, I actually go and look at what's in the syllabus to make sure I cover everything that I think is important. Do you think people should be multi-cloud? Now, obviously, I focus on Azure, so I'm going to be biased in this. I think trying to be multi-cloud adds a massive amount of complexity and probably doesn't buy you that much. People might think, oh, I don't want to be locked into any given vendor. Oh, I want resiliency from a cloud failing. I mean, realize the reality is most of your services will have some dependency maybe on a certain identity scheme. It may have some dependency on a certain routing to the instances, which is going to be hosted in a cloud that maybe could point to different endpoints. I think trying to be multi-cloud, you're adding a massive complexity because clouds do things differently. Obviously, things like Azure and Arc and Defender for Cloud try and spread out that Azure management and control plane to other clouds. But if you're using like AKS, well, it's Kubernetes, you're not really locked in to any particular cloud anyway. So no, for the most part, I wouldn't say multi-cloud is a benefit. I think it's just going to make things very, very complicated. As a consultant, it's good to have a base understanding of multiple clouds, but just a base. You cannot be deep in multiple clouds. You can barely be deep in a cloud. There's so much scope of what's there. So for the most part, I think generally you're going to end up with a richer solution, focusing on a cloud, both as a company and as a consultant. Obviously, make sure you're resilient, make sure you're multi-region, for example, in Azure, make sure you're using availability zones. But no, I think for the most part, multi-cloud is just going to complicate things a lot. Would you ever try another position? So I'm an architect, and I've really been an architect for most of my career. I was a VAX VMS systems administrator when I started out when I was 18, but I quickly got into the architecture space designing a financial middleware system, and that was on Oracle and Sun Solaris. Then I dabbled in more the Windows world and then Hyper-V and now the cloud. I like what I do. I think if I had my way, no, I will just carry on being an architect and I will retire, hopefully at 60. And then I will focus on my bread making and my pizza making skills, which is really my long-term life goal, is to learn to make really good bread. I never want to be a manager. I was a manager once. I'm not good at it. I'm terrible. And it's partly my not great people skills. I'm not the right type of personality to be a people manager. And I'm aware of where I'm strong and where I'm weak. I don't make a good people manager. So I never want to do that again. So if I have my way, I will carry on just loving the technology and focusing on the technology. I love creating this content. Maybe there'd be an opportunity to do more of a pure training role. I don't know. I like having the hands-on architecture. I think it helps me understand the technologies better. So my videos are better. So I think if I just did training, I might lose some of that real world element, which I don't think would be a good thing. So my current thinking, if I had my way, I will just carry on until I retire, kind of as I am. Thoughts about cloud malware. Now, honestly, I haven't given this a huge amount of thought, but it's certainly interesting. If you take that shift of what we're used to on-prem and starting now thinking about the cloud does open up new avenues. Like I have a new identity, a cloud-based identity. More services maybe have public exposure. There's a greater use of probably DevOps as I shift to the cloud. So those DevOps, can someone do a bad commit? Is someone accidentally checking in a secret or a token that could be exploited? I'm using libraries from somewhere else. Well, do they have a vulnerability? How do I track that? People are doing self-service. So how do I manage those? I think of governance. In a multi-tenant world, we're always concerned about a bad neighbor. Is there some hypervisor attack? Is there some control plane attack? And obviously that's the responsibility of our cloud provider. Denial of service attacks on those cloud services. Someone trying to use up a huge amount of resource on a particular node. That's very difficult to get yourself placed on a specific node to impact a particular person. So I think there are new things to consider. So it's important to think about the all-up zero trust, the cybersecurity, but realize the old threats don't go away. I still have IaaS. Well, what are those attacks that I could do in the VMs? My identity, hey, I have Azure AD, but I still have my AD. I might have ADFS. If I attack my AD, well, that's going to give me an intrusion into the Azure AD. So I still have to think about all of the different components to really make sure I'm secure. So I think the cloud opens up new considerations. Will you be creating a video on X, or please create a video on X? I don't discuss future content. I don't take requests. I've posted on LinkedIn a whole thing. I really dislike it when people ask for content, especially when I post a new video and they're like, oh, waiting for this. Please create this. It's like, to me, someone makes you a meal. They've done a lot of effort to make you the meal. And as they serve you the meal, you sit down and look at them and say, I'm waiting for pizza. When are you making chicken? It's horrible. So if you've done that on Twitter or LinkedIn or YouTube, guarantee I've muted you so I don't have to hear from you again. So totally dislike that. Don't discuss it. And what is the secret in eating what you do but staying looking like you do? So I eat pretty terribly. I eat huge amounts of food. But it's really just, what is it? Physics, I suppose. Matter, energy can't be created nor destroyed. It's calories in, calories out. You can eat a huge amount of calories as long as you burn a lot of calories. You put on weight if you consume more than you burn. So yes, I eat a huge amount, probably like 4,500 calories a day, but I train for 3 hours every morning. Saturday, I might train for 7 or 8 hours. So I can eat what I eat because of the exercise I do. It's really, there's not a secret. You just have to make sure calories in doesn't exceed calories out. How do you use an Azure service from on-premises if I don't have internet? So there are a few different variations of this question. And really the key answer to this one, I'll quickly address this. So if you think about, hey, there's Azure, okay? And then I'm sitting on premises. And lots of different services in Azure, I'm not going to draw a particular service, but some service has a public endpoint. So it's accessible over the internet. What if I don't have internet from some set of resources? So the typical solution I'm going to do, I have a virtual network, and what I create is a private endpoint, and it might be a private link scope depending on the service, that points to this particular instance of a service. And then what I have is I connect my on-prem to this virtual network. So I connect all the way through. That could be express route private peering. It could be a site-to-site VPN, but we just said it doesn't have internet, so maybe that's not an option. But then this private endpoint is just an IP address. As long as I have a path to it, I'm good to go. There is some certain DNS I have to be able to resolve, either by creating the records, or I could have there's now an Azure private DNS resolver that I forward to. But essentially, if I don't have internet access and I want to consume something, most likely it's going to be an express route private peering, and create a private endpoint to that service to help you do that. So that's likely going to be the answer there. What would you do differently if you started again? So I always think we are the sum of both the good things that have happened and the bad things that have happened. Certainly I've made lots of mistakes. There are things that I'll look back on that I've done or said that now I'll kind of cringe. I was like, ugh. But hey, I look back on it and I cringe. I'm like, oh, that was bad. I've learned from it. It's got me to where I am. So honestly, I wouldn't change anything. I love where I am today. I have a fantastic family. I have a fantastic job. I doing the training I want to do. I think I'm crushing where I am right now. I'm in a fantastic place. So I wouldn't change anything. Certainly I've done bad things. I've made mistakes, but they got me to where I am. So rather than beat myself up over it, hey, I've learned from that and just move forwards. What am I most excited about outside of Azure? So I think I'm going to take up archery with my son. He wants to do something. I think archery would be really fun. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to Kona, going to Hawaii for the Ironman World Championship. Obviously, I just did the St. George Ironman, but I think, I think the archery will be fun. I think doing the Kona. From a technology-wise perspective, no, honestly, I'm not particularly excited about any particular technology thing right now. There's lots in Azure happening that I'm excited about and that I'm looking forward to using. It's constantly growing, so there's constantly an opportunity to learn. But more and more as you get older, the things I'm excited about are family and personal things. And that was it. So that was some of the most core questions I thought would be more generally interesting to people. So I hope that was. As always, thank you for the support. It really is appreciated. And till the next video, take care.